Welcome to Rethink Your Legacy. I'm Francisco Servent. I'm a lawyer and expert advisor to people who are trying to build their family's legacy. And I want to help you live your family's values before you leave this world. Like I said, I'm attorney and problem solver at law. And today I want to help you get to know what we're going to do here with this radio show. This is the first time that we're launching a radio show out of Keystone Law Firm. And now there's so much happening in the world with COVID coming down and all of the race relations just developing and bubbling up. There is just so much happening in the world right now. You know, it's kind of scary. And as an estate planning lawyer, I've spent the last 14 years talking and working with people who come to me when they've tried everything else. They've tried everything else in their life to fix what's going on. They're struggling with something real, something hard. And, you know, they kind of throw up their hands and they say, well, I guess I'll have to call a lawyer. That's tough. And when they finally get to us, people are scared. And I see that stuff every day. And so, you know what? What better time to get out, try to help people live their life according to the values that are most important to them? Because you know what we see? I just see it too often that when people leave this world, they've left too much unfinished business behind. And it just breaks my heart. So this show, Rethink Your Legacy, here's what it's all about and here's who it's for. This is for people who, if you are someone who believes in the core concepts that our family values have to be passed on, and that we really just should be living these things out through every stage of our life. If that's you, then you're going to get a ton out of this. I invite you to join me every single week for a whole new set of content and ideas and education about how you can help your family live out your values. This all really crashed down on me while I was still in law school, actually. My grandfather, my Grandpa Baker, he did something that blew me away, right? This was about 17 or 18 years ago, and I was still in law school. I got in the mail a big, envelope, one of the big manila envelopes. We never get one of those. And so I was like, what is this? Open this thing up. It's this giant coil bound, from like the copy store book that on the front page had the title, A Gathering of Tales, in one of those funny fonts, kind of the old style fonts, but it was supposed to be fancy. And it said at the bottom in a little footnote, by Charles Baker. And I went, what the heck is this? I literally started reading that book, and it was almost 200 pages of stories that my grandpa had taken the time to just gather and write and put down on paper. And he photocopied them and went down to the copy store, had them all coil bound, and sent them out to his kids and his grandkids and family members. And I literally couldn't put that book down. It was as if I grew up with my grandpa, growing up in western Nebraska on a farm and all the trouble he got into with his buddies, and then going to World War II and I mean, some incredible stories there. Going to the Korean War, more incredible stories. Marrying my grandma, raising his kids. And I mean, just story after story after story. Some of them told really, really well. Some of them, not told in all that much of a story-like fashion. But really, it just moved me. It just hit me. I mean, here I was, a young guy in my 20s. I was, my wife and I had just gotten married a few years earlier, and I didn't grow up with my grandpa, but I felt like I grew up with my grandpa after reading that book. And it just put this weight on my heart of, oh my gosh, he died a few years later, that we're losing these stories, we're losing these values, we're losing the experience and the wisdom that so many people out there have. And, my grandpa, he put together the right kind of estate plan, the living trust and the will and all the things like that, so that it was, so that going through his estate administration wasn't a big giant nightmare, but it wasn't a big giant nightmare. it was a grieving process that the family went through. But you know what? I think he left me like $1,000 or something. I think he left each one of us grandkids a little bit of money. That money, it's long, long, long gone. I promise you. I don't even really remember what I spent that money on. But you know what? Those stories, I still go back to that book. I still flip through it. I still smile every time I read it. I get something different out of it at each phase of life. And I am just amazed that he took the time to type out on a computer story after story. And over the years, I think he said it took him over 10 years to put all these stories, down on paper. That I'm just amazed. I'm so humbled. I'm so honored. I'm so grateful that he chose to do that, because I get the value of that for the rest of my life. Right now, I'm in this stage of life that I'm in, but he left this earth at that last stage of life, that legacy care stage. And as I went into the business of helping people plan their estates and administering their estates, I realized just how profound it was that my grandpa did this for me. It has given a completely different sense of meaning to what we do. It's not just a will. It's not just a trust. It's not just a probate. It's so much more. And that is why we say, I want to help you live your family values before you leave this world. Because if we don't live our values out, who cares what you leave behind in terms of money and dollars? It's not going to leave the impact you want. And so that's who this radio show is for. That's what Rethink Your Legacy is for. Now, if you've been a listener of Keystone Wealth Partners radio show, Rethink Your Money, you've met my good friend John Hagenson, and he has been teaching and educating about how to think about your retirement and how to fund your retirement, how to not go broke, how to not get ripped off by financial advisors. He's been doing that for years, and I hope you check out his show too, because he's got so much good wisdom for you there. But finally, Keystone Law Firm, that's my baby. Finally, we're getting the radio show off the ground because we're just called to spread this message. And I hope it brings some blessings into your life, into the life of the people you love and that you care about, because what else are we supposed to do on this earth? So if, we spend a lot of time working with people who are right before retirement, kind of that empty nester stage where, the kids are gone and life starts to change, your financial picture changes. A lot of times that's where we're hustling. We see clients really hustling to build up their retirement account because the kids aren't there anymore. But, still kids, they still cost something. But that empty nester stage, we work with a lot of folks who are right at retirement, and they're either just right now planning it, or they just kind of stepped into it. Maybe they're kind of a few years into it, getting their feet wet with the whole retirement lifestyle, and helping them figure out, how does their estate plan change at that time? What's the different types of protections and asset protections that they're going to be needing? What's the different types of tax strategies that they can use? And then we also work with folks who are in that legacy and care stage where, they're 80 plus years old and they've been retired for some time. And either, maybe they are starting to need some help around with things, or maybe not, but they're really at that phase of life where things really matter, that they pass on their values. And so if you're in one of those stages, that's really who this is for. I hope you stick around and join us every single Sunday for this show, because this is for you. And we've got a lot to cover today. I've got to jump in and hit a lot of topics, but I want you to know that if you have something that's just burning and you can't wait to call and you need help from a law firm on anything that relates to any of these issues, feel free, jump on our Facebook page, jump on our YouTube, jump on our website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com. Give us a phone call, 480-750-7788. My team will get back to you first thing Monday morning. We'll answer your questions, no matter what you've got, whether it's something exactly like what we do, or we can refer you to somebody that we trust, or just send you some of our free resources. We're happy to help you do that no matter what. Give us a call, radio.keystonelawfirm.com, 480-750-7788. So practicing for 14 years, I I've taught so many public events. I've taught so many I'm trying to get this education out. Webinars, seminars, podcasts. I've written reports and I've just done so much to try to get this information out. And I just still feel like I can't get it all out. I still run into tons of people who are struggling to get answers and to get some clarity around their situation. Right now with this whole pandemic, that has scared really a lot of people. And just recently, we're seeing Arizona's numbers spike again. Things get scary, and we've got to be dealing with some of these things just head on. We can't put our head in the sand. We can't ignore what's happening. I hear too many guys out there who are like, you know what, my family will figure it out after I'm gone. Please, I promise, I tell you specifically, guys, husbands, I have to meet with too many of the wives that are left behind, and they're just devastated because it's a giant mess. And we can't do that. If we are people who claim to have family values, that claim to live out our family values, we have to deal with this stuff. And so we're going to cover a ton of things. This radio show, Rethink Your Legacy, became the tool for me more than anything, like so many things in life, to hold myself accountable, to give more and more and more ongoing education, just to share as much as I can about the experiences I've been through, the people that we've helped, the family stories that have happened, what tripped some of them up, what helped some of them do really well, so that way you guys can make better decisions, so that way you guys can protect your families. Because you know what? When we get to the end of this game, when we get to the end of our lives, we are not going to look back and say, boy, I'm so glad I saved a couple $100 on this, or I had one extra toy, or I had one extra, zero on my investment account. We're just not. I have met with more people going through those stages than so many others, and that is not what is on their mind. What is on their mind is the relationships that we have and the impact that we made on our families and those we loved. So we've got to dig in. We've got to dig into some uncomfortable topics. We've got to dig into some conversations that have maybe some of you have been avoiding, or maybe you've only barely touched, the tip of the iceberg on. Or maybe you're not raising it with your significant other because you know how they'll react. Well, I'm here to tell you that this is the place to send them. So share this message with them. Jump out to our Facebook page, jump over to our YouTube page, and grab this content, text it over to them, email it over to them, and tell them to start following, because we're going to talk about this stuff here in really a no judgment zone, where as we get questions and as we hear questions, we're going to answer them. And as you get to listen and the people in your life get to listen, they're not forced with a confrontational discussion. They don't have to feel like they'll get defensive. So invite them. So what we're going to do, though, every single week, we're going to be hitting new educational topics on your legacy that will help you live out your life better right now. And we're going to be talking about some of the simple things like wills and trusts and power of attorneys. I'm even going to dabble a little bit into the technical stuff like probates and guardianships and conservatorships. And for those of you who really want to fall asleep, we will actually do some discussions around tax. So we're going to hit some of those things. Now, those might be some of the more interesting topics to me, because this is my chosen profession, but maybe more boring for you. What we're going to cover that might be more fun for you guys, which I hope you get out of, is we're going to cover some of my funny grandpa stories. We're going to cover some idiots out there who did some stupid, just retarded things and then tried to use the law to get out of it. And then we're going to cover also some really neat, easy strategies, right, that you guys can take home and just pull the trigger on and do. Every single week, I want you to make sure you get back here every week, is because each week we're going to have a brand new checklist or form or template or sample or some kind of PDF that you can jump onto the website radio.keystonelawfirm.com, and you'll be able to grab that. And if you remember, your grandma probably had one of those, or maybe you do, right? Had one of those little boxes, like a 3x5 index card box, and had all her recipes in there. There were some companies out there years ago, I don't know if they're still doing it, where you could subscribe to recipe of the month or recipe of the week, and they would send you a brand new recipe, and you could and they'd give you a nice little box to put it all in, and it'd be organized and really cool. You could go back to it, and it's all beautiful there with all these recipes. Well, that's what we're going to do. Every single week, you're going to get a brand new checklist or template or form or sample or whatever it is that you can then pull down, print out, and stick into your Rethink Your Legacy file. And all of these are intended to build you up with enough knowledge and clarity and understanding of all the experiences. I'm going to try to share as much as I can so that you can make the choices that are right for your family. You can go out there and decide, do we need to do this kind of financial plan? Do we need to do this kind of tax? Do we need to do an IRA? What is this kind of annuity? Is a revocable living trust something we should be looking at? Well, what's a charitable remainder trust? Well, how do we avoid taxes on this thing because we're selling, a house we've owned for 50 years, or I've got a business and, it's time for me to retire out of this business. What do I do? There's just going to be all kinds of different checklists and forms and resources that this will build up into a database, a resource for you that you'll be able to just go back to, flip through anytime you want, and grab that recipe and remember, oh yeah, this is how we're supposed to do that. Oh, that's right. Okay. And you know what? It'll have the show date on there, so you can go right back to the archives and listen to the show again. Or if you have a buddy or a friend who's struggling with something, you can think of, oh, you know what? They talked about that on Rethink Your Legacy. Francisco covered that. Let me go grab that checklist, and these will all go right to your email, so that even in your email, you can always search for Rethink Your Legacy, and bam, you can pull up those recipes and just forward them right on to any of your friends who are struggling with any of these topics. So that's what we're going to be covering. I've been looking for an outlet to essentially archive the knowledge that I've been gaining through all this experience over the last 14 years dealing with thousands of families. And this is my investment in archiving that for your benefit, because every time I get to answer a question for somebody, it changes their life. And I remember a gal who came to us after her husband passed away, and he passed away so unexpectedly. They had actually scheduled an appointment with me to create their trust together. Scheduled it a few weeks out, and as they were getting ready to come in about a week before he passed away completely unexpectedly. So she ended up coming in and having to go through a whole ugly long, it was about a 3-year-long probate process that cost her tons of money, tons of wasted time, tons of anguish. But I remember in one of those first appointments with her and just sitting across the table and telling her, I know I can't help you grieve for your husband. I can't. I mean, they were married over 60 years. But the confusion that you feel about all this financial stuff and the investments and the house and everything that's in there, I can totally give you clarity and assure you that this is going to work out just fine. And, just seeing her body just relax and breathe that sigh of relief, that I wish I could just get into a stadium of 10,000 people and tell you it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That's what this show is for. It's for you. It's for you to be able to get that information so you can stop being confused about something and you can say, okay, this is going to be okay. You know what? We've got this. And you can go back and you can tell your family, we've got this, because you are ready to live your family values. You are ready to take care of them so that you can really be ready when the day comes and you have to leave this earth, that you can breathe that final sigh of relief with all the assurance that you did everything you could. So, We've got a lot to cover, but who the heck am I? Well, who am I? You can Google me. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, radio.keystonelawfirm.com, and you can do all the background checking that you want. But let me give you the current state of affairs. Who am I? Who's your host? How am I qualified to answer these questions? I figured since this is our first episode, I better at least lay down some credentials so you maybe have a chance of believing anything I say. I'm married, and my wife Nicole is almost my high school sweetheart. We actually met in 7th grade. Yeah, we're like high school sweethearts. We've been married now, let's see, in about a week, I think. Yeah, we will have just shared our 19th wedding anniversary. And we've been together for 23 years, married 19. We have 4 awesome kids. We have 12-year-old twins, Gabriel and Isabella. We have an 11-year-old daughter named Sophia. And we have an 8-year-old son named Zachary. And those 4 kids are just the amazing loves of my life. If you do get onto our website, you're going to see a picture of them because I can't stand but to brag about them anywhere I go. They are why I do everything I do. And they bring everything out in me that's fun in life. Anytime I feel like I'm becoming a workaholic, they remind me that there's more to life, and that's what this radio show is about. So that was one of my commitments to myself when I finally decided to do the radio show was, you know what, if I'm going to be talking to people about rethinking their legacy, it will really help me rethink my legacy. And you guys are helping me hold myself accountable to helping create the life for my kids that I want for them, and for my wife, for Nicole, that I want for her. So I truly believe that by you listening and you letting me help you live out your family values, you're actually helping me do the same. So I really love this kind of relationship. So that's who I am. I am also the founder of Keystone Law Firm. We have our headquarters in Chandler, Arizona, and we serve folks who have issues all over Arizona that are from anywhere in the world. So, we do a lot of remote and virtual appointments. We do a lot of our services through email, mail. So it's a ton of fun. I started the firm in 2007. So for any of you who are business owners, who are entrepreneurs, you know the struggle, and you know exactly what it feels like to go from starting from zero. So here's how the whole thing started. It was a really crazy experiment that my wife didn't know I was going to pull. So she got pregnant with twins. Yay, scary. Oh my gosh, this is going to be new. Our first children are going to be twins. And I decided to quit my full-time job as an associate attorney at a local firm and start my own practice. That's a great time to do it, isn't it? Well, maybe it would be if you had a whole book of business and a bunch of clients that were going to come with you. But, I didn't know that was required. I thought lawyers just, told the community I'm a lawyer and they got flooded with clients. Well, that certainly didn't happen. We floundered as a solo practitioner, as a single person business, me, myself, and I, for many, many, many years, up until about 2012, where we redoubled my efforts. I worked twice as hard, finally started to get a little bit of traction, but it wasn't until 2015 that I said, you know what, I am burned out. I am about to be done with this. It was just exhausting. And if you're a lawyer out there running your own practice, I completely get the struggle. We actually help a lot of other attorneys in this community learn how to, manage and grow and build and train their team and service their clients. And so, we've got a special place for you on our website too. But 2015, I just said, my wife and I, we were basically done with me being a workaholic. And so we decided to do what I had been advising people to do all along, which was go talk to an expert on managing and running a business. So I did. And guess what? We learned about managing and running the law firm as a business. And since 2015, when it was me and one other employee, now it's me, four other attorneys, and about 9 support staff, various types, and in different roles, who are just amazing people, and love getting to work with my team at Keystone. They're just such cool and fun people to work with that I enjoy going to work with them every single day. So for you guys at Keystone Law Firm, huge shout out. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for being part of Keystone and for digging in and helping people take care of their families. But the Keystone story actually started a little bit different. It started out as something called Servent Law Firm right around that 2012 time period when I met John Hagenson, who's the founder of our sister company, Keystone Wealth Partners. We're in the same building. We are co-branded, but all he does is financial planning, investments, tax planning, retirement reviews, all that stuff. And at the time when I met him in 2012, he was a sole practitioner as well. We had lunch, and I'll tell you the whole story on an upcoming show. It's a little bit longer than what we have time for, but let's just say we met. We tested each other out for about a year or two before we really realized we had a lot of values that we shared. And he was in a very supportive industry to what I did. And we just decided to co-brand ourselves as Keystone. Since then, we both have grown. It's been almost insane. His firm has grown. They've now got offices up in the Biltmore area. They have an office up, I think it's in North or South Dakota, way somewhere up there. And they're just growing like weeds, helping tons of people save their retirement. So super excited about how we get to work together to really help families look at their entire financial house, put it in order, get it organized, give them some peace of mind. It was kind of neat that during this last crazy COVID stock market insanity, his clients weren't running for the hills. They weren't bailing. They knew the discipline of their investment strategy, and they felt peace of mind getting through it, which is a good thing because the stock market has already come back a bunch, and we know it's going to come back in the future. So our firm on Keystone Law Firm side, like I shared you that story earlier with the gal who came in after her husband had passed away, we do estate planning. That's what I wish we could only do estate planning. I wish there was no need for us to ever go through probate. But Arizona being the retirement state that it is, we have a lot of people who end up in probate. And we're going to talk some in future episodes about the ugliness of Arizona's probate system. So if you're a probate lawyer out here, be warned that I'm going to expose the ugliness of that whole system. And so you are going to need to be on the watch for people truly knowing how that system works and how specifically lawyers benefit from that. So yes, our law firm, we do estate planning, which means we do wills and trusts. We do power of attorneys, healthcare directives. We help people in each stage of life craft a different plan, because when you're turning 18 and you're now a young, brand new, fresh adult, you need some legal documents, or else your parents can't call if there's an emergency. When you get married and you're newlywed and you have young kids, you need a different kind of plan to take care of those little kids, right? If something happens to you, you got your most precious cargo. You got to make sure your little ones are cared for. And then, when you hit that empty nester stage, there's some changes that happen there. The kids are now over the age of 18. What's going to happen at that point? Things need to shift around. Same thing. There's another shift at the retirement stage when you actually say, all right, I'm going to stop earning income at my job. Let me switch gears. And then that legacy and care stage where we focus a lot on how's your family going to remember you? How's your family going to take what you gave them, the values you gave them, and carry those forward to future generations? And that's all we do. We do all that planning, and then we do all of the probate because some people didn't plan or they didn't plan correctly. So we're going to cover a lot of the details inside of all of that in future episodes. So I invite you to come back. What we're going to cover next is a little bit about my childhood. I can't cover everything in day one. I can't cover everything in any of these episodes. And that's just why we're going to do this every week. So please join us back next week. please connect with us. If you want more information, join us on our Facebook page, Keystone Law Firm. Join us on our YouTube channel. Just look for Keystone Law Firm again. Go to radio.keystonelawfirm.com and you can get onto our checklist. You'll get the information about the checklists. Or give us a call. If you need a question answered right now, give us a call. Leave a message with your name, your phone number, and what the issue is. And Monday morning, first thing, our team will call you back. Someone on the team will call you back. That phone number is 480-750-7788. Because why are we doing this? Because again, I want to help you live your family values before you leave this world. And there's nothing worse than being stuck in a spot in life where you just don't know what to do. I kind of know what that feels like. So I grew up in Mesa. I was actually born in Kansas, if you can believe it. But my family moved to Mesa, Arizona when I was about 6 years old and grew up. Went to Christ the King Catholic School for elementary, went to Poston Junior High, spent 2 years at Seton Catholic, and then 2 years at Mountain View. Why did I jump around high schools so much, you ask? Well, let's just say I was anything but the golden child. I won't say I was the black sheep, but I was definitely the one who caused the most trouble. I was actually declared a juvenile delinquent by our local juvenile court system. When I was in high school, I was a punk, and if I was a punk to you back then, I just have to admit I don't remember everybody, and I probably haven't apologized to you in person, but I want you to know I'm sincerely regret if I hurt you when I was that punk. I really do. I mean, I don't know how to reach everybody, but here, this is maybe one way I can do it. I'm grateful that even though I was a hellraiser, that when it finally hit and the police put the handcuffs around me, thank you, Mesa Police Department, for catching me. Thank you, because what that led to that summer was it led to my parents starting to love me in a different way. Not that they had not loved me. They were really amazing parents. But I think it woke them up to what I didn't even know I was going through. I was confused. I was struggling. I was trying to impress all the wrong people. And I certainly didn't know how to communicate that to them in any way where I would have known how to ask for help. I just thought I was being cool. I thought I was going along with the crowd. And the reality is it landed me in the back of a cop car with handcuffs on. And then later in front of a judge. And then doing community service. And then paying a bunch of money back. I mean, it had severe consequences. And that has followed me around the rest of my life. But that was a turning point for me. I went to counseling. I had to work with a probation officer, if you can believe it. And my priest and my pastors, they completely poured into my life. And it put me on a completely different path. It put me just in an instant, it changed my life towards a new destiny. And I'm sitting here now, 40 years old, the product of that moment when a change happened that was so significant that I didn't notice it at the time, but looking back now, I absolutely notice it, that my parents were able to communicate their values to me. Finally, it hit me like a ton of bricks, probably because I was in a ton of trouble. But it hit me, and it put me on a completely different trajectory of my life. And I'm absolutely grateful for that. That was the pathway to sending me over to Mountain View, which put me back in touch with my wife, one of these, who I had met in junior high. One of these days, I'll tell you guys that story. It also put me back on the pathway to restoring my faith, which, my gosh, I don't know where I'd be without my faith. And it just the struggle, the pain of literally being at the bottom of a pit where you've got handcuffs in the back of a cop car. It doesn't get much worse than that. I mean, it does. But for me, that was a low point. So I get the struggle. I get what struggle feels like and what challenges feel like. And having been through those challenges, That's the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think it just has gotten so overused that we fail to really grasp how true that is. It's not what doesn't kill us that makes us stronger. It's what we decide to get back up from that makes us stronger. It's the act of getting back up. And so I know a lot of families are struggling right now. I know a lot of families are struggling because they've had someone die from COVID, or they've had someone die from something else, or they're struggling in this race relation world where we have somebody who was killed by cops who are supposed to be the protectors of our society, but then we have so many good cops who are still protecting our communities and our families. And there's just a lot of struggle. There's a lot of internal, like even in our own brain, in our own gut, we question, should I do this and should I do that? And I know what that feels like. I absolutely know what that feels like. But do you know what doesn't change? What doesn't change is that we have a path of knowing what our values are. And you may not have spent much time sitting down and like a man on a mountaintop, communing with God for 40 days on end. I don't know if any of us have been able to have that experience like Jesus, but we definitely have the opportunity to define our values and to grab those values, whatever they are, to put them in front of us every single day and say, whatever decisions I make today need to be in alignment with this, because I am going to leave this world one day. I don't know when. But if I don't honor these core values, then I'm going to get to the end and I'm going to regret it. And that's why we're here. That's why this show is for you, is for those of you who care about your family's values and living them out. That's what this show is for. It's for you to stick around, to come back week after week, and to take up a new challenge, to live out a new core value that you've just discovered, or to maybe tweak one that you thought was your value, but maybe you've learned something new and you think, oh, maybe I want to massage that one a little bit and reword it. And that's what we're going to do. You know what? We've got a lot to cover, but I also get that a lot of you are going to have questions. And if they are related to anything we can help you with, whether it's wills or trusts or probate, or even if it's things that are maybe not quite right inside of that stuff, if you need a referral for a divorce, if you need a referral for a bankruptcy, if you need a referral for a criminal law matter, we've got really good attorneys that we actually trust and that I know personally. I will connect you with them. Just give us a call, 480-750-7788. Leave us a message. Send us an email, radio@keystonelawfirm.com. Jump on our website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com. Jump on YouTube, jump on our Facebook page and send us a message. We will get back to you first thing Monday morning because we want to help you live out your legacy.